Have you ever noticed how healing doesn't always feel like healing? Sometimes it feels like losing yourself. The things that used to make sense don't feel the same. The people you used to laugh with feel far away. Even the version of yourself you once recognized starts to blur. And instead of peace, it feels like grief. Instead of clarity, it feels like confusion. You wonder quietly, am I breaking down? Or am I breaking open? You wonder, am I losing myself? Or finally meeting the one I was always meant to be? What if losing yourself is not the end, but the beginning? Here's the strange truth about healing. It doesn't hand you back the life you've had before. It changes you. And that change can feel like loss. Loss of old identities. Loss of roles you once played so well. Loss of the mask you wore just to survive. You may feel like you don't fit in old conversations anymore. Like you can't laugh at the same jokes. Like you're walking through the rooms of your life as a guest instead of the host. And it's unsettling, because no one tells you that healing has grief stitched into it. No one tells you that becoming whole sometimes feels like being emptied. But maybe that emptiness isn't a sign you're disappearing. Maybe it's space being cleared for someone new to emerge. Think about it. We spend years building versions of ourselves that can survive what we've lived through. We learn to be strong, to be quiet, to be pleasing, to be invulnerable. We shape our personalities around what kept us safe. So when healing begins, those old versions start to fall away. And it feels like losing yourself. Because in some ways, you are. You're losing the self that learned to keep the peace at the cost of your own needs. You're losing the self that measured worth in productivity. You're losing the self that silenced its own voice just to be loved. But here's the part we forget. That was never your truest self. That was your survival self. And it deserves gratitude, but not permanence. Healing means grieving those selves and still letting them go. So yes, it feels like loss. But what if loss isn't the whole story? What if you're not just losing, you're trading? Trading exhaustion for rest, trading fear for presence, trading performance for authenticity. And yes, that trade feels terrifying at first. Because the survival self was familiar. It was predictable. It gave you certainty, even if it also cost you joy. But maybe the scariest part isn't that you're losing yourself. Maybe the scariest part is that you're finding yourself, and you don't quite know how to trust that yet. Let me ask you this. What if the ground you feel falling away beneath you isn't the ground at all? What if it's just the old scaffolding? And what if beneath that is something sturdier, something you don't have to build or prove or perform? What if the self you're afraid of losing is only making space for the self that was always safe? Your true self. The self that doesn't need applause to exist. The self that doesn't abandon you. The self that doesn't break when people leave. That self is not a stranger. That self is home. And here's the beauty of it. When the survival selves fall away, so much becomes possible. You begin to choose not out of fear, but out of desire. You begin to connect, not out of need, but out of honesty. You begin to rest, not because you've collapsed, but because you've remembered you're worthy of stillness. Healing isn't just about feeling better. It's about becoming freer. Yes, it feels disorienting. Yes, it feels like loss. But look closer. It's actually space. Space for relationships that are built on truth. Space for creativity that flows without shame. Space for joy that doesn't need to be named. The loss you're grieving is also the doorway you've been searching for. And maybe the greatest surprise of healing is this. Your true self is not dangerous. It is safe. For so long you believed that you had to be someone else to be safe. Quieter, smarter, stronger, nicer. But the safest place you will ever know is the one inside you. Your body still might whisper old fears. Your mind might still reach for old defenses. But the more you listen, the more you'll find that the self you were always afraid of meeting is actually the one you've been longing to return to. So if healing feels like losing yourself right now, maybe that's because you are. But you're not losing the wrong self. You're losing the mask, the roles, the versions built only to endure. And in their place, something truer is arriving. Not the person you should be, not the person they wanted you to be, but the person you already are. And that self is not a problem to fix. It's not a stranger to fear. It's the safest home you'll ever find. You're not disappearing. You're arriving, and maybe for the first time, you're not losing yourself at all. You're finally free to be yourself.